Good morning, everybody. I'm gonna turn my light down just a little bit. Oh, that's up. There we go. I don't need to quite be that bright. Welcome to the studio, you guys. It's good to see you. Happy Monday. If this is your first video because you started classes with us this month in February, welcome. My name is Allison. You've probably been emailing back and forth with me. And every Monday you get a video from me, and we're going to talk about all the things the kids are doing in classes this week. So if you have one of those kiddos who comes home and says, you say, what did you do in art class today? And they're like, nothing. This is where you find out what they actually did in art class. All right, so I've got some notes to go through. I've got some visual aids to show you as the month goes on. I'll actually have projects to show you or sketchbooks to show you from what actually happened in class. But it is the first week, at least for my Monday and Tuesday kiddos. Be a lot of repeat stuff in this video because my Thursday, Friday artists started February last week. So for everyone who got Monday's video last week, we talked a little bit about some of the February stuff because we did have some February artists. Now everybody's in February, Thursday, Friday. You guys are just a week ahead. And hopefully that's clear as mud. Okey-doke. First note I have in the intro section of our video is that everybody has class this week. All normal class times, everybody's meeting. I don't think there's going to be any weather issues. I think we'll be okay. So, all is well. Indeed. All right, let's move along. Here we go for those preschool classes. So Monday and Tuesday classes this week, you guys start your February curriculum. My Thursday, Friday people, you guys started last week. We're going to be reading on Monday and Tuesday a book called Uncle Andy's Cats. It's kind of a quirky book about Andy Warhol and the cats that live with him and how he goes about solving the problem of too many cats. And he does it through a process of printmaking and making posters and illustrations. So it has a little bit of a art history tie-in, a little bit of a art media tie-in, and just kind of a fun book. It also gives us a subject to work with, which is cats. And that's a fun subject for us because especially in the way that this illustrator drew cats, it is a very approachable way for our artists to also draw cats. So we'll do some of our own kitty cat illustrations. We're going to play with something called a jelly plate, and I meant to grab one, and it's just right over here. So I'm going to grab it. Don't go anywhere. All right, now I have a jelly plate. Now this one is a well-loved jelly plate. You can see that it is stained. When they actually start out, they're crystal clear, but as you know, as they get really old, this one is probably, oh, I don't know, 5, 6, maybe even 7 years old. This jelly plate is. It's still in really good shape. It's very smooth. And you can see why they're called jelly plates, because they're very wiggly. This is a synthetic gelatin. So it's very delicate. You don't want to like scratch it. You don't want to gouge it. You don't want to scrape it because we don't want to damage this super slick surface. It's almost a little bit tacky, and it makes a beautiful print. So this is a printmaking tool, and it makes the type of print called a monoprint, meaning that whatever I make a mark on here and then I pull a print off of it, I can only do it once. It's not like a stamp that I can like re-ink and just stamp and stamp and stamp and stamp and make all these duplicates of the exact same relief, right? It's not like that. This is one of those things that I have to, I make my design on here, I pull a print off of it, and I only get one. So it's called a monoprint. So the kids in our week 1 classes, Mondays and Tuesdays, are going to be playing with jelly plates when we get to project time. We'll learn a little bit about printmaking, a little bit about monotyping, and they'll actually roll their, we're going to use just washable tempera on these. You can also use acrylic. You can also use printing inks. We're going to use washable tempera for these classes. They'll roll it on there using another printing tool called a brayer, the fancy word for a roller. We're going to roll all of our paint nice and smooth and flat on that. We'll place some different heart masks on there and then pull a print off. Valentine's Day themed, printmaking themed, and super fun process. That is our Monday and Tuesday kids. Now my Thursday kids and my Friday kids, you're like, that sounds really familiar. That's what we did. Yes, it is. This week, you guys will move on. You're going into week 2, and you're going to be reading The Kissing Hand. And I believe our project goes along with our portrait and figure month. And we're going to do giant life-size, we call them self-portraits, but they're more than a portrait. They're your entire body. And so we will take large sheets of butcher paper. We will trace the outline of our artists as they lay down on the butcher paper, and they will spend time making themselves in a life-size portrait. So those are fun. You got to make sure the floors are clean on that day because everybody's down on the floor because it's such a big artwork. So that's a good one to do. One of our favorites. So I hope that you enjoy it. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need to tell you about preschool classes. I don't think there is. Let's move along. So my multimedia classes are next. We have 3 levels of multimedia classes. K1, 2nd, 3rd, and K through 3rd classes all do the same curriculum. And it is printing month. So it's printing month throughout the entire studio. So we're going to be in our K, 1st, and 2nd, 3rd grade classes. Remember, multimedia classes are a project-based class. While we are still we celebrate the process. The goal of the multimedia class is to learn a media and practice that medium and make a project with it. So it is printmaking month. We're going to be using 2 types of printing with our project. We're going to use the jelly plates to pull a mono print background, and then we're going to do block printing or relief printing on top. So we already talked a little about this in the preschool section, but I'm going to say it again because if somebody's watching just the timestamps, they didn't get that section. So this here is called a jelly plate, and you can kind of see why it's called a jelly plate because it's super wiggly. It is one of those things that is delicate, so we don't want to like gouge it with our fingers. We don't want to scratch it. We want to maintain this super slick, almost tacky surface so that whatever texture we get out of our print is something we put on ourselves. When our kids are pulling monoprints off of this, we're going to use a brayer and we're going to roll some beautiful colors of paint. The goal is to get a gradient of their choosing. So they'll pick their colors, what gradient they want. These make beautiful like sunsets and sunrises. That's kind of the inspiration we're going for their background. But if they choose a blue and a green and a purple for their gradient, I'm good with that. It's fine. No worries. So whatever gradient they want, they'll roll on here and start printing for their first step. After we finish that step, the next step is the relief part. And I wanted to show you this. I showed it last week, but the 2 types of prints. First is the mono print. The next is a relief. For our young artists, we use a printing foam. For our older artists, we're going to create that relief differently. This here, it's hard to tell on the camera. And again, if you saw this last week, it's just a duplicate because my Monday, Tuesday artists didn't get to do this last week. So this is picture like meat packing trays. That's kind of the texture that I've got here. So it is a foam. It's super smooth. But if I take a pencil, and this is actually a white pencil, and I make a mark on here, I'll get it up next to the camera. Can you see? It was a white pencil, so it did not make an actual graphite mark, but it did leave an indentation in my foam. So if I run my fingers over it, I can feel the dips from where I press down. This then becomes a stamp. I can take printing ink and roll the top of this with printing ink and then stamp it on my paper. Okay. So this is what will go on top of our backgrounds. The final project for these 3 grades here is a sunset or sunrise or some sort of gradient background. And then they're going to take rectangles of printing foam and create architectural details and buildings. And we'll print those in the foreground and a silhouette. So it'll all be in black ink. So that is their project. So they have lots of steps. If you are in a Thursday class, your first step happens this week. You're going to be printing your background on the jelly plate. There might be time, they'll probably print more than one. There might be time to start on your buildings, or at least to start brainstorming the type of architectural details that you would put on your buildings. Things like trim and windows and bricks or siding or something, right? So however they want to design their buildings. And they can cut different shapes. It doesn't have to stay kind of a solid rectangle. If you are in a Monday or Tuesday class, this is your first week of printing. So you're going to do what our Thursday artist did last week, and that is just explore it. We want to make sure that they have lots of time just to get their hands into printing. This is not something that a lot of people get to do very often, especially in the younger elementary schools. like in your school art class, printing, it maybe comes around once a year. It only comes around once a year for us. So it's unlike painting or drawing, where it seems like almost every project has a painting or a drawing aspect to it. Printing is not one of those. So we want to make sure that you get a lot of chance to play with these tools and make some prints. So they're going to do that in week 1. Monday and Tuesday artists, you come to class. We're going to have printing foam for you to practice on. We're going to have jelly plates for you to make prints on so that you can just make prints. There's a very good chance your artist might come home with a handful of artwork this week because it's all practice stuff and it's just exploring. It's also a good chance that they're like, I don't want to keep any of it, and we throw it all away. So it depends on your artist. It doesn't matter to us, but just be aware of that. Like I said, Thursday artists, you guys will start with your first step of your project this week because you already did all of your exploration. Sorry, I'm like messing with it. My bad. Squirrel. All right. Oh, I didn't show this tool. This one here. So this is a brayer. This is a Baron. And this is what we use since we don't have like a press. This is a hand press, and it's got a root. You can almost hear it, right? So it's a super slick, like linen surface here. So that way, like I can take it, I push down and I press on my paper when it's being printed. And this allows me to give even pressure. If my hands were messy, it would make sure that I didn't leave fingerprints or like the oils on my fingers, right? So this is a great like tool for making that print really, really smooth. So we use both of these in printing. Let me check my notes, make sure I didn't get anything wrong or miss anything that I needed to tell you. I think that's it. All right, let's move along. We're going to talk about our 4th and 5th and our homeschool classes. It's printmaking month for you guys as well. So you will also be learning some printing techniques, but different than what we did with the K1s and the 2nd, 3rds. So your project is also a relief print, not a jelly plate like a monotype. It is a block print. It is something that we have a surface that has texture on it, and we're going to print it over and over and over again. It's something we can make lots of copies of. But instead of, like with our K1s, I talked about the printing foam that we used a pencil to carve away. Instead of being a reductive, where we're going to carve away on our printing plate, we're going to build a printing plate. So this is an additive way of making a printing plate, and the type of this type of printing plate is called a collagraph. So I know, right? Lots of big words. This is why printmaking is so such a fun thing to do. So they're going to be building collagraphs. You can use anything to make a collagraph. It is basically a substrate where you've added things on top of, and then you pull a print. That's it. All the texture and grooves, and like I could take a piece of cardboard, a lace doily, a piece of string, a ribbon, a piece of corrugated cardboard, and glue it all down, and then roll the thing with ink and pull it off. And that's a collagraph because it's a textured plate, and we pulled a print. It's been built with additive methods. So we're going to build our collagraph plate using manila folders. And just that little bit, you have a manila folder, and then you cut out a piece out of manila folder and you glue it on top. That little bit of a texture or a little bit of a rise will give us a print. So I did bring an example this time. Last time I did not. This was actually from Thursday's class because they played with collagraphs. So this one here, and you can see it's been printed, right? Because it's got ink on it. So it is a piece of manila folder. And on top of that, they've used like probably a punch. I think we have this star punch, and they've punched out stars from another manila folder and then glued them on top of the base. When you roll it with paint or ink and then print it, okay, so you roll ink on this, put a piece of paper on top, take your Baron, rub, 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 pull the print. This is what you get. This is called a collagraph print. Okay. So that is the type of printmaking that these classes are going to be doing. So if you're in 4th and 5th or homeschool class, your printmaking project explores collagraphs, not printing foam or jelly plates or lino. Lots of different types of printing happening here. The subject matter for our 4th and 5th and our homeschool classes is also a city skyline they're going to be building similar to what the K1s are, except for theirs are reductive. They will be building their own architectural details using the manila folder. So a lot of cutting and pasting, a lot of collage. Our younger kids don't have those kinds of fine motor skills, but with fourth and fifth, we really, you know, a lot of them do. And so it's a fun way to build your own plate and get a lot of really great details in it if you want to. They'll build their city skyline. We will print that in black ink on dark gray paper. And then we've got a really fun finishing technique in the sky. We're going to do stars from the printing foam. We'll cut out stars. And then we're going to use embossing powder while the ink is still wet. So they will be dimensional and metallic, which is so fun. You hit them with a heat gun. I'll show it when we get closer to the fourth week, which is when we do that step. I will show it here on camera because it is mind-blowing, like absolutely amazing and awesome. So that'll be a fun thing for them to do at the end. They, so my fourth and fifth in homeschool, if you're in a Monday, Tuesday class, all you're doing this week is getting your brain wrapped around what a colograph is, because it doesn't seem like this should work. Let's be real, right? It doesn't seem like this should be a stamp because all it is a collage, but it does. So they're going to be making little mini collagraphs. We've got smaller sheets of paper for them to practice making tiny little collage sheets and disappearing into my green screen, tiny little collages, and then printing them. So that's what's happening here. Okay. If you were in a Thursday class, you already did this step. And so you're ready to move on. Hopefully your brain is like, totally get this. I understand what I'm doing. And they're going to start building their collograph plate. They're going to have 2 weeks to do that. Our goal is by the third class, so not this week, but next week, by the third class, we're hoping we have maybe about 50% of the class ready to print. And then the other 50% can print in the fourth week. Everybody collages at a different pace. So everybody makes art at different paces. So we know not everyone's going to finish at the same time. But we're hoping that in that third class, we'll have some friends who are ready to pull a print. It might take us more than one try to pull a clean print. So you might roll ink on it and you roll too much and you pull it off and you're like, oh, that's a messy print. Okay, you wipe it down, you roll it again, you pull a print. Then that one has a fingerprint on it. And you're like, ah, so you wipe it down. It's a process. And eventually you're going to get a really good one and you're like, that's my final one, right? So we want to make sure they have time. Hopefully they got a lot of practice printing, but we want to make sure at the end of the month they have time where they're not rushed and they're like, if I had just had one more try, I think I could have gotten a better print at college. So that's the goal there. And it'll be a really, really fun project for them. Okay. I got to check my notes. I think that's it. All right, my older kids. So you're 6th, 7th, and 8th through 12th, middle schools and high schoolers. You guys get to do the fun one. So this is lino. It is just like it sounds like, linoleum. And so this is Battleship Lino from Dick Blick. We're going to be using carving tools. They look like this, like little U-shaped knife. And just like our K1s, who did a reductive style of making printing plate, yours is also reductive, except for instead of using a pencil to carve away, you are using a knife. So we've got a nice flat surface, and you carve away the areas that you don't want to print. So it's a different way of thinking. We have to think reverse in our brain. If I want an outline of something, you don't carve the line. You carve everything except the line. You carve both sides of the line, and you leave the line alone. So positive and negative space. This is the month that we really dig into that. So you can see, like on this one, this was from a previous, I don't know, it was just in the closet, but it might have been a camp or something. But the artist has carved away the background. So when the artist prints this, the subject, this fun plant looking thing, is the color of the ink, and the background is white because we've carved it away. So that's what these tools will do. You lay them down and you just push, and little pieces like shredded cheese come off. Okay. So that's what our kids will be doing. Their subject is a landscape. So we're looking for something that is a 2-color landscape because we're only going to make one print. If you want more than one color, in your print, you have to carve more than one piece of lino. And actually, if you are interested in that, or you have to do what's called like a multi-step reductive print, where you carve away, make a print, carve away some more, and make another print, carve away some more. So you're layering prints on there, and each print is a different color. You can do that as well. If you're interested in something like that, my teenagers for this class, if you're interested in a multi-step, multi-color, like carving away lino print, we're doing that this summer as one of our teen workshops. So check it out. But anyway, so this will be a single color, black and white, very graphic, bold landscape is what we're looking for. So they spent their first week, my Thursday classes did, that spent their first week simply designing. And this is smaller. This one here, I think, is 5 by 7, but your lino this year is 8 by 10. So it's a good size piece of linoleum to do the carving on. And so they spent their time just kind of brainstorming, like, what part is black and what part is white, and creating balance and positive, negative space and all that stuff. The Monday, Tuesday kids, you guys will do that designing step, like the understanding of the project, and then the designing and brainstorming, and then transferring your design on the lino. You guys will do that this week. My Thursday people, you get to start carving. So yeah, lay off the caffeine Thursday. Gotta have steady hands. I do say, and we tell the kids this, these are sharp. There's a reason that only these classes get to carve. Because, I mean, there's an expectation that you are responsible enough to handle a sharp tool. That means you are responsible enough to keep yourself safe and all of your other friends, right? So we got to take care of the studio, the supplies, our friends, and ourselves. That's like, I mean, we have very few rules here, but that's the expectation. So what we usually tell the kids is if they cannot be responsible with these, then we have an alternative. We will give you the printing foam that the K-thirds are using. And you could do the same project. I have 8 by 10 sheets of this. You can do the same project with this. I just really think this is cool. So that is our option for any artist who cannot handle it. And we will really only give them like 1 or 2 chances before we redirect them and give them a different tool so that everybody in the class can be safe. Mistakes happen. We do tell them to make sure they're not carving into their hands, right? Because you want to hold it steady. So we talk a lot about keeping your holding hand behind your carving tool, and it's easy to forget. And then you get nicked. So I did stock up on Band-Aids. Little nicks are going to happen, but just absolutely irresponsible behavior is not going to be tolerated with sharp tools. Okay. Alrighty. Let's move off of multimedia and chit chat some more. Creative explorations. This is our process art class. This is a station-based child-led learning class. We use all our curriculum in this class, everything from what's going on in preschool to what's going on in drawing to what's going on in multimedia. So it's kind of a compilation of all of it, but it's set up in stations, and then the artists choose what they want to pick on, like, and how deep they want to go in each one and all the stuff. Right? So we just started February stations. On Friday was the first class for Liberty. Flatwoods, you guys have your first creative, I get to move over, your first creative explorations class coming up this Wednesday. And then, so if you are like, we didn't do this, you had last week off. So you start this week. So the media focus, of course, is printmaking. I know I helped sub one of the Liberty classes this week. So I have firsthand knowledge, which is kind of fun. Usually I'm getting it secondhand from the teachers, but I do know that the jelly plates were a huge hit, and that we, myself included, had a really fun time exploring them. I had a great time. So we did have some stamps out. We also had some jelly plates out. They did a fantastic job. I look forward to seeing, like, for a lot of them, that was the first time that they got to play on something like this. I look forward to seeing, like, where we go from there, and if next week the prints get better or more complex or more layered, that kind of stuff. So our art history was Andy Warhol. We looked at some of his silk screens, the portrait silk screens, because those go really well with portrait lessons that we're doing in preschool. So the artist had an invitation to make their own portraits on printing foam, because then just like Warhol did his silk screens, we can make more than one print of that portrait. And then we had also with Andy Warhol, our still life was a whole bunch of Campbell's soup cans, so they could draw those. We had a Valentine's Day light box. Now the sensory bin in Flatwoods might be a little bit different because our curriculum just says pull a sensory bin from what's going on in preschool. And this is what we have in the preschool room right now at Liberty. So whatever Flatwoods has, that's what will be the sensory bin at Flatwoods. And then we had a collaborative mural going on the vertical surface. The curriculum says to do, Miss Sarah writes this curriculum, says to do like odd printing tools with paint on a vertical surface. Because of how intense the jelly plates were, we didn't get out paint this week, but we probably will next week. Otherwise, the collaborative mural is just stamps. But we'll get messier. Oh, I wanted to mention with creative explorations, I had just a note as a heads up. So Friday, people in Liberty, you have class this week, but just as a heads up, next week, which is the weekend before President's Day, the Liberty Public Schools are off. And so we took the day off as well. So if you're looking ahead in your calendar, you do have class this week, which is the 9th, but you do not on the 16th. So just make a note of that. I'll remind you in the video next week too. All right, drawing peoples. Are you ready for this? It is portrait and figure month. I gotta drink some coffee. So we're doing portraiture, which is from here to here, and figure, which is the entire body. And you know what? Drawing people is hard. It is. It's just hard. And it is something that you will practice your entire life. I love drawing people. Not everybody does. But the more you do it, the better you will get at it. So in Drawing 101, we're going to tackle our first lesson doing partner portraits. So we'll look at a partner and draw them, and then switch partners and look at another partner and draw them. What we're really looking from this group is proper placement of features, spacing, right? Where things are, proper scale, right? So eyeballs are the right size compared to the mouth, like relative size and scale. Looking for the proper placement of ears. We're looking for details, right? So a lot of, for some of our artists, this is just an opportunity to go deeper into how they normally draw people, rather than just taking like how I normally draw people and putting it on a paper, but actually looking at a person and going, I can see like the top line of your eyelid. I can see eyebrows. I can see, you know, so noticing features that don't normally go into their artwork. And remember, Drawing 101 is everywhere from kindergarten to 2nd grade. So we've got different levels. Some people may be already very detail oriented in portraits, while other people are still doing kind of tadpole people. And everybody develops at different stages. I promise everybody who goes through tadpole people eventually gets to like people with bodies. It'll happen. I promise. Okay. So anyways, so we're looking for wherever they're at, just to take them one step further. So we're going to do some partner portraits. They're going to use some different mediums. We are expecting that Drawing 101 kids are doing line drawings. So if you don't know what that is, it's exactly what it sounds like. So contour drawings or line drawings. That means when I look at somebody's nose and I go to draw it, this is hard. You're going to draw a line that goes right down here, around here, and around here. A line, right? When we get to Drawing 102, we're trying to get away from that. But in Drawing 101, all we're looking for are line drawings. And it's a-okay. We might start to talk about the fact that there's a highlight here and a highlight here, right? This part of my face is lighter, right? There's a shadow here, yeah. But it's just to give them the vocabulary and to talk to them about it. We're not really expecting them to start drawing in values. For my Thursday kids, you guys already did your partner portraits. You did them last week. So this week you get to move on to my favorite lesson that we do of all times in all classes, and it is gestural figure drawing. Like I might have to come to class so that I can draw. So gestural figure drawing is a quick figure drawing that you do using your entire arm. So it's fluid, it's flowing. And so you have a model from life, somebody in the room who is holding a pose, and you usually have anywhere from 30 seconds to 3 minutes to draw the pose. Traditionally, gesture is like 30 seconds, but for our kids, so we don't raise their anxiety level, we usually go about 3 minutes. Just however long our model can hold the poses. So they're really fun. And they're a different way of drawing. For anyone who is a perfectionist, when you put a timer on it, it forces you to not be perfect. We're not looking for details. That's not the expectation. It's to just get like just the concept or the ghost of what's there. And it's a great way to practice and train your eye, to start understanding in a figure, like the relation between like shoulder to hips to waist to knees, to like, just like the song. Head, shoulders, knees, and toes. Yeah, just like that. So we're gonna draw people. The kids will take turns modeling. So we usually, yeah, I mean, it's not required, but we ask for volunteers to someone to model, and then the class takes turns drawing. But like I said, we usually go gestural. If the class wants it, we might go longer. So I mean, I know I've sat for a 10-minute pose before. Obviously, like a 30-second pose, you can get real crazy with what you hold. For the longer poses, usually it's a sitting pose, not a standing pose. But so anyways, so that'll be what's coming for a lot of our artists. This is a requested lesson that we do over and over and over again. So for the rest of the year, if there's downtime, they'll ask for figure drawing because it is a really fun one. Most of our classes will also get out. We have dress-up clothes in both of the studios, and we'll get out some accessories because, I mean, a great hat or a feather boa just makes the outfit. Lots of fun stuff happening in drawing 101 class if you're a week 2 people. And if you're not, if you're Monday, Tuesday, it's coming next week. Okay. All right. In my drawing 102 classes, this is advanced realistic. These are both classes that meet on Monday, Tuesday, so I don't need to worry about telling you what week 2 is doing. We can just talk about week 1. You are starting your February class. It is also portrait and figure month for you guys, and you will begin with portraiture. So here's the thing. For you guys, we are trying to transition you from a line drawing to a value or a form drawing. We expect for our 102s that you already have proper placement. You already have proper scale. I mean, obviously we can always get better at it, but you've already got it in the right spot and the right size. So really what we're looking for here is you might start with a line drawing, but we want all those lines gone. Because my face doesn't really have that many lines in it. I mean, unless you count the wrinkles, there's maybe like my eyelashes. But everything else is a shadow. Everything else is a difference in value. So we don't want 2 lines coming down the nose. Rather, I want this light, this kind of dark, and this light. And that's how you know where my nose is. It's almost like coloring. So we're looking for these artists, the 102s, to be transitioning from a line drawing to a value drawing. And they'll use their contours, their lines, get their placement of objects, and then we're going to work on getting values in. That is not as easy like as what I just say it. Like now do shadows instead. Like it's not that easy. They've worked all year in all of their drawings on value scales and understanding, what a value scale is. But you guys, faces are hard. So, and getting all these values is hard. They're gonna keep working at it, and you can't draw too many portraits. It's just not possible. So we're gonna do self-portraits, not partner portraits in this class, because we've found that for this age group, drawing a other person is really uncomfortable. So for this age group, we draw ourselves. We expect it to be challenging. If they come home and they're like, it was really hard. Yes, it is. It's always hard. It's hard in college too. It's always hard. But that doesn't mean it's not good for us. My 102 comic, you guys. So if you're in the comic and cartooning class, not the realistic class, comic and cartooning, you guys have been doing people all year. So you don't need a portrait and figure month. Like all year long. That's all you've done, actually, is portrait and figure. You are rock stars. So you get fun stuff. In the month of February for our comic and cartoon classes, we have these lessons that don't really fit anywhere else, but they are fan favorites. And so we want to make sure we get them in. They're going to start with chibi animals, which are those cute little like animals. I don't know how to explain them. They're cute little animals. But chibi is a style. So if you don't know what chibi is, look it up. But it's a style in anime. And so they're gonna draw chibi animals, and then you can apply all of the technical lessons that we did last month. So all of your color lessons, all of your stippling, cross-hatching, scrumbling, value scale lessons, all of your line weight lessons, like all of those things are applicable. And we hope to see them in their drawing of this, concrete subject. So we got chibi to animals. If you're in a Monday, Tuesday class, that's what you're doing. If you're in a Thursday class, you did chibi animals last week. And so this week, you get to move on to robots and mecha suits. And I didn't know what a mecha suit was. I'm not even really sure if I still know what a mecha suit is. But Miss Grace tells me picture transformer. And I'm like, okay. I'm a child of the 80s. I know what a transformer is. So we're picturing like that style of character. Because we've worked so hard throughout our year drawing humanoids, drawing, people that look like humans, we wanted to get, a lesson in something that is more mechanical. And so they're going to draw robots and mecha suits. And again, all of those value scale and line weight and coloring lessons from last month are applicable in them. I'm going to check my notes and make sure I got it. Here we go. Drawing 103. Okay, so drawing 101 is where we just explore drawing, encourage drawing, make people fall in love with drawing, new novel things all the time. Drawing 102 is when we dig into the nitty-gritty and technical aspects of drawing. And everything is lesson-based and we don't really make it. Drawing 103 is when we give you prompts and you spend the month giving us a feedback. So, and I mean, by giving us, I mean just sharing your art with us, because obviously you get to take it home. So it is Drawing 103 month. They get to change their project. I hope you saw on Facebook and on Instagram, I shared some of their work from last month because it was amazing. So I shared the light bulb pictures from Liberty's Tuesday or Liberty's Monday class. And then Liberty's Tuesday comic class, also I had some of their artwork. So I shared some of that. So I hope you got to see them. They look amazing. This month, the realistic kiddos are going to be drawing, let me make sure I got it right. They're going to be drawing a metamorphosis drawing. And I should have brought an example of this. It is a multi-staged drawing where something turns into something else. So picture like a feather. And then in the next step, the feather kind of changes shape, but it still looks like a feather. And then by the time you get to maybe the 5th or 6th drawing, it's a bird. But you can see the change in the object. So they have to change it from one thing to the other, and they have to show all the steps in between. It involves some creative thinking. It also involves an aspect of almost hyper-realism, because in order to make it believable, you have to draw realistically. And the challenge is that, you don't have a reference to look at. You have a reference maybe for the first thing and a reference for the second thing, like where you want to go, but not in the middle. You have to use your imagination for that. You also have to keep the scale consistent so that it's believable. So we will use a little bit of like a light table in order to make that happen. A couple other tools. They will pick their drawing medium. So sometimes we tell them like, this one's a graphite, this one's a charcoal, this one's colored pencils. We're going to let them pick which media that they're most comfortable in. So if they love colored pencils, they can use colored pencils. If they just want to do pen and ink, they can do pen and ink. Whatever they want to do for their metamorphosis. That's what we're going for. And then my 102 comic, they are drawing. So in the last couple months, we've done panels where they've had like 2 or 3 panels. This time it's a single panel, just one composition, but it is a team. So the challenge is to draw a team of either superheroes or villains, whatever vibe you're going for, in a dynamic pose. And it can't be like, I'm gonna mess this up. It can't be like the Avengers. Isn't everybody very proud that I knew the name of a team? It can't be a known group of superheroes. You can't be like, look, here's Batman with Robin with I don't know who else. But it can't be somebody like that. It has to be your own original characters, and but where we want them in some sort of dynamic pose together. So it'll be really fun to see what they come up with. A lot of them have like some well thought out characters already, so it's not like they're starting from scratch. They just have to decide how they're going to be arranged compositionally into a pose. All of them. A lot of portrait and figure for them as well. All right, couple housekeeping things, and then I'm going to let you go. You guys have been very patient with me. First things first, the Valentine's Day workshop is coming up. So this is our first year doing this event, like as a special event. So I'm excited for it. It is a chance for our artists who come to classes to do something a little bit crafty as opposed to something very artsy. It's also a chance for the general public who don't get to come to regular art classes to come and experience the studio space. So we have a series of different Valentine's Day themed craft projects that include painting and printing and sculpting and drawing. And so it's open studio style. So you come in, everything's set up, shouldn't need a lot of instruction, and you can just work through the stations for 90 minutes. And then you leave with a whole bunch of fun Valentine's Day treasures. If you're interested in that, the link is in the email here. You can also find it on the special events page of the website. The next thing I want to talk about is the art show is coming up. It is on Sunday, April 21st. I know I keep like hinting at it, and I'm like, details are coming, details are coming. I did pay the deposit today, so like for real, details are coming. Next week's video should have a bunch of details in it. The only reason I mention it now is because your kids might start talking about it because they're starting to talk about it in classes. And so we want to make sure that if they come home, you're not like, I don't know what you're talking about. You must be making this up. No, there really is an art show. It is coming up. Everybody's invited. Everybody's invited to participate in it and to enter art in it. And details are coming very soon. Just go ahead and save that date. It's in the afternoon, evening-ish time. So like think 5 to 7. Okay. And then the last thing is if you have unfinished fall semester projects in my closet, we're going to start sending them home. It doesn't mean that you can't still come finish them. It just means you have to bring them back with you when you do. We're going to start clearing out some of our cubby space. All right. Mixed media month, which is next month, really takes up a lot of space. So we're just thinking ahead. Sound good? All right, everybody. That's all I have for you. I hope you have a wonderful, well, I mean, I'd say first week of February, but for most of us, it's the first week of February. So I hope everybody has a wonderful first week of February or second week of February if you're in my Thursday classes. And I'll say go Chiefs for Sunday's game. Hopefully we have a red snow day coming up next week, and we'll have to talk about that in the video and what happens there. But otherwise, I will see everybody soon. Have a good one.